I mean, it's about like the highlight video. They continue to undervalue and underappreciate who Dak Prescott is for their organization and for their team. And now when you're thinking about what Troy Aikman said, that if he plays under the franchise tag this year, he's gone. And to that I say, duh, absolutely. But what the franchise tag will do is make both of these sides say who is going to balk first, who is going to win this game of chicken. Will Dak Prescott, whose last memory on the field is him sitting on the ground facing the goal line with his cleats facing the New York Giants sideline, bet on himself again for a season? Or will the Dallas Cowboys say, you know what, we don't want that fifth year, or we don't need that fifth year, we want you for a long-term deal? And so I think you mentioned that date. If the franchise tag is placed on him again, it should be with the mindset of getting a long-term deal done, because the Dallas Cowboys know if they don't get it done this year, they never will, and they'll lose their franchise quarterback.
And that could be a major loss. Again, Troy Aikman making those comments to the Dallas Morning News. Ryan Clark, thanks so much.
Still ahead, don't miss Stephen A. Smith's take on Luka Doncic falling short of MVP expectations so far this season as the Mavs' struggles continue. Plus, after releasing Mock Draft 2.0, Todd McShay debates Mel Kiper Jr. on the biggest quarterback questions at the top of the board. A surprise at 2, 3, and 4.
And Ryan Smith.
Welcome to SportsCenter. PTI and Stephen A. Smith are standing by to discuss the very latest big issues for the Nets' Big Three.
And Kevin, we got full coverage of the NBA taking a stand against Mark Cuban and the Mavs' approach to the national anthem. But we start with today's headlines. And let's start with the Super Bowl champion Bucks. They traded a ticker tape parade for a ride on the river because of coronavirus, celebrating their title with a boat parade in Tampa. The must-see moments from the day are coming up. Taylor Heineke, he's gone from out of the league to a 2-year deal worth $8.75 million with Washington. ESPN has confirmed he threw for over 300 yards, ran for a touchdown, and threw for a score in his only start of the year, a playoff loss to the Bucks. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, whose state was devastated early by the pandemic, said today he's allowing 10% capacity at large sporting venues. Negative test, masks, and social distancing are required. And finally, the Dallas Mavericks, as we just said, haven't been playing the national anthem before home games this season. Today, the NBA responded, saying it must be played according to league policy. Here's Ed Werder with more on this developing story.
There's something about the national anthem, Dallas pro sports franchise owners, and controversy that's become commonplace. 2 years ago, Jerry Jones threatened to discipline Cowboys players unless they stood at attention and with, as he said at the time, toes on the line. At the other end of the spectrum is Mark Cuban. His decision not to play the anthem created enough attention that the NBA on Wednesday overruled him, requiring all teams play the anthem prior to games. Appearing on ESPN's The Jump, Cuban explained he decided to experiment in the preseason, starting games without playing the anthem to gauge reaction, always knowing that might eventually change.
We had always discussed the fact that we probably would end up playing it at some point, probably when fans came back, but there was never any final decision that had made that we would not play the anthem.
With media attention suddenly brought to the issue, the NBA released a statement Wednesday saying that with spectators returning to games, all teams will play the national anthem in keeping with the league's long-standing policy. So tonight in Dallas, for the first time, the fans and the national anthem will be back as the Mavericks host the Atlanta Hawks.
Look, we have no problem playing the national anthem at all. I stand for the national anthem. My hand is always over my heart. We've supported the National Flag Foundation and done work with them.
Cuban says he simply wants to ensure that all voices, not just the loudest voices, are heard on important issues. And this to him is one of those. I'm Ed Werder, ESPN.
As Ed mentioned, tonight on ESPN, the Mavericks are hosting the Hawks in Dallas. Cassidy Hubbard joining us now live from the arena. Cassidy, what has been the reaction from the two teams on this developing story?
Well, Kev, the team announced that they will play the national anthem tonight around 7:38 Eastern. And I spoke to Rick Carlisle before the team and league made their statements today, but I asked his reaction to not having played it all season. He said it was Mark's decision, and he's a guy who's always operated a little differently, but someone who always has a reason. Said, quote, "I will defiantly back his right to make that decision because that is what America is." Now, we haven't heard any reaction from Mavs players about it, but the Hawk Solomon Hill spoke today after a conversation he had with his sister, who was a police officer in Dallas, who lost a colleague actually during the police shootings here in 2016. And his reaction to the message he feels Mark Cuban made by not playing the anthem is that we don't all embody the anthem, saying we just say the words instead of living up to those expectations and standards. He says we're in a time where it's bigger than the anthem. It's about looking at who we want to be as people and not just the words we say. Again, the anthem will be played tonight for the first time this season in an arena that will have 1,500 vaccinated workers in attendance. Just the second game this season they've had fans, Kev.
Okay, we will see how this plays out tonight. We saw Solomon Hill video there while you were describing his reaction to this developing story. Cassidy will be a part of the call for Hawks Mavs, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. We'll have much more from the NBA coming up in PTI's bonus topic. Tony and Mike will discuss if Kyrie, Katie, and Harden can reach the NBA Finals without any major changes to the roster.
All right, back to the NFL, and the Washington football team have re-signed quarterback Taylor Heineke to a 2-year deal. Think about this. In December, he was taking math classes at Old Dominion University, where he played. When Washington signed him to the practice squad, he played well, replacing Dwayne Haskins Week 16, then started for Alex Smith in the playoff loss of the Bucs. He reflected today on what the deal meant to him.
You always want some security, and I feel like a 2-year deal kind of gives you that. So again, I've never felt like I've had like 2 feet in the door in the NFL. I feel like I've always been fighting, trying to either make practice squad or just get on the 53. It's kind of been 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And now I actually feel like there's a little bit more security there. And this is the first time I felt that while being in the league. So it's a great feeling.
What a great story. Heineke started, as we said, a game last season in the playoffs in that loss to the Bucs, that 8-point loss in which Heineke threw for 300 yards. He played just 93 snaps last year, but the Washington offense averaged the most yards per play with him on the field compared to the other 3 quarterbacks that they used last year. So for more, let's bring in senior NFL insider Chris Mortensen. Mort, this team's coming off a division title, so how are they approaching the quarterback position moving forward?
I will say this about Tyler Heineke. What he got paid is backup money. So that means that the Washington football team is clearly waiting for Alex Smith to make a decision on whether he's going to try and play again or whether they are going to move on without him. And I can tell you about Heineke, going back to the Minnesota Vikings when he was on the roster there, to the Carolina Panthers, Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator of Washington, has always liked him, wanted him as part of his depth chart. So he's set in Washington. They were involved in the Matthew Stafford trade talks with Detroit, didn't get him when he went to the Rams. They will evaluate this draft, and they will evaluate the free agent and the rest of the trade market for quarterbacks, as we've talked about this quarterback carousel. Count them in on that. I think Alex Smith, I don't expect him back in Washington with the football team there. Whether he goes on and plays somewhere else, that remains to be seen. Now, as far as some of the quarterbacks out there, we know Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles, it's like an any hour, any day right now, we expect Wentz to be traded from the Eagles to one of those teams. The Washington football team once acquired a former Eagles quarterback, Donovan McNabb from Philadelphia, an interdivision trade. But I'm told that's not going to happen this time around. And I'll just add this, in terms of Wentz moving on and the Eagles prepared to do something, they have been studying Marcus Mariota, as the Raiders have made Mariota available for trade. That would be interesting. He's actually a pretty good match for Jalen Hurts in creating a competition with similar skill sets. Ryan?
Could be very interesting indeed. Mort, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Well, the last time we saw Washington play, they lost to the Bucs wild card weekend. Party on, Tom. Party on, Bruce. And party on, Gronk. Every single day. This afternoon near downtown Tampa, the Bucs celebrated their Super Bowl 55 win on the water with a boat parade and one final pass from Tom Brady to Gronk. Go! You held your breath there with the Lombardi Trophy. Final touchdown this afternoon. Thankfully, no spike, but they were spiking everybody else around the league. Listen to this.
I can't thank the players, the families enough for all the support during this crazy-ass year that we had to put up with. All right? You beat COVID, and you beat every damn team we lined up against.
When I say world, y'all say check! World! World! Tampa Bay Bucks, I'm coming back, baby. I love y'all. This for y'all, baby. We the champ.
We the best in the world. There was a lot of people that counted us out, but we respected the game. You know what I'm saying? We fought all year. We stuck together. It's the greatest bond I've been a part of. And now we world champions. Show some love, baby.
And we gonna do it again. And I mean that. And I mean it. I ain't just saying that. I mean that. We gonna do it again. Holy hell, I've been to a lot of parties, I promise you. Ain't nothing compared to this one. Thank you.
A lot of spiked drinks in the afternoon, and then you got to deal with the sun.